The day had started like any other at Willow Creek Middle School. I had just finished teaching my 7th grade English class, and the students were buzzing with the excitement of an upcoming break. My name is Emily Carter, and I've been teaching for a little over 10 years. I've seen it all: students struggling with grammar, kids discovering the power of books, and even the occasional dramatic middle school feud that felt like something out of a soap opera. But nothing could have prepared me for what would happen during the parent-teacher conference that night. The hallways smelled faintly of floor wax, a sure sign that the janitors had worked hard to make the place look respectable for the visiting parents. Teachers had decorated their bulletin boards with colorful displays of student work, hoping parents would notice the creativity their children poured into essays and projects. I was proud of my classroom, lined with bookshelves stacked full of everything from Shakespeare to contemporary novels. Each book held the promise of imagination and understanding. I believed in stories, not just the ones in literature, but the ones unfolding in the lives of the students sitting in front of me every day. As I prepared my notes for the evening, I glanced at my schedule. One of the last meetings was with a student named Daniel Matthews and his parents. Daniel was a quiet boy, the kind who often kept to himself. He wasn't the top student in class, but he wasn't failing either. He always handed in his assignments, sometimes late, sometimes rushed, but he made an effort. I noticed, though, that his eyes often carried a kind of heaviness, as if he were carrying something far beyond the world of homework and middle school chatter. The night moved along as expected. Parents came in, asked about grades, nodded at my comments, sometimes argued gently about what their children could be doing better. I reassured them, praised strengths, and pointed out areas to work on. It was the rhythm of the job, and after so many years, I had learned how to balance honesty with encouragement. Then Daniel walked in. His parents were not with him, which surprised me. Normally, the school required parents or guardians to attend, but sometimes exceptions were made. He looked nervous, clutching a notebook in his hand. His sneakers squeaked faintly against the polished floor as he entered my classroom. "Hi, Daniel," I said with a smile, trying to ease his tension. "Are your parents on their way?" He hesitated, shifting his weight from one foot to the other. "No, ma'am. They couldn't come. They asked me to come alone." That struck me as unusual. It wasn't the first time a parent had missed a conference, but usually they'd at least call or email. Something about the way he said it felt heavy, as if there was more behind those words. "That's okay," I said gently, motioning for him to sit down. "Why don't we talk a little about how you're doing in class?" He sat slowly, his eyes darting around the room before settling on the notebook in his hands. I wanted to talk to you about something," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I tilted my head, waiting. "Of course. What's on your mind?" He swallowed hard, gripping the notebook tighter. "It's not really about my grades. It's something else." A chill ran down my spine, not out of fear, but out of the instinct teachers develop after years of working with young people. Sometimes, a student doesn't just need feedback about essays and math problems. They need someone to listen. "I'm listening," I said softly. Daniel opened the notebook, flipping through pages filled with scribbles, drawings, and what looked like journal entries. His hands shook as he searched for a particular page, then stopped, his finger resting on a line. He pushed the notebook toward me. I leaned forward and read the words scrawled across the paper. "Sometimes I feel invisible at home. Sometimes I wonder if anyone would even notice if I disappeared." My breath caught in my throat. I looked up at him, and for the first time, I saw the weight he carried in his eyes. This wasn't just a boy struggling with homework. This was a child carrying a storm inside him. "Daniel," I said gently, "these are very big feelings. Thank you for sharing them with me. It takes a lot of courage to write something like this." His eyes welled with tears, and he quickly wiped them with the back of his sleeve. I didn't know who else to tell. My parents are always fighting. They don't listen. At school, I try to act like everything's fine, but it's not. My heart ached. In that moment, I wasn't just a teacher. I was the only adult in his life he felt safe enough to open up to. I reached across the desk, resting my hand near his, careful not to push too far but showing that I was present. "You're not invisible," I said firmly. "I see you, and I'm really glad you told me this." He nodded, his shoulders trembling as if years of bottled-up feelings were finally leaking out. "Sometimes I write in this notebook because it's the only way I can let it out. But lately, I've been thinking maybe it doesn't even matter." I took a deep breath, steadying myself. As a teacher, we're trained for these moments, to listen, to respond carefully, and to make sure the student knows they're not alone. But training can never fully prepare you for the raw humanity in front of you. It matters, Daniel, I said softly. Your words matter. You matter. And I promise you, we're going to figure this out together. The clock ticked softly in the background, but the room felt suspended in time. It was no longer just a parent-teacher meeting night. It was a turning point in a young boy's life. Over the next hour, Daniel and I talked. He told me about the constant arguments at home, the way his parents sometimes forgot about his school projects, the nights he stayed awake listening to shouting through the walls. He admitted that sometimes he wondered if leaving would make things easier for everyone. Each word pierced my heart, but I stayed calm, knowing that my role was to listen first and act second. By the end of the conversation, I had reassured him that there were people who cared, his school counselor, myself, and other trusted adults. I gently explained that what he was feeling was important and real, and that there were safe ways to get help. He agreed to let me set up a meeting with the counselor the next day. When he left that night, his notebook still clutched to his chest, I felt a mix of relief and worry. Relief because he had opened up instead of keeping it inside, but worry because I knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. That parent-teacher night changed me forever. It reminded me that teaching isn't just about lessons and grades, it's about lives. Behind every essay and every math problem is a child with a story. And sometimes those stories are filled with pain no one else can see. The next morning, I followed through on my promise. I walked with Daniel to the school counselor's office, staying with him until he felt comfortable. Over the next weeks, I watched as he slowly began to find his voice again. He started raising his hand more in class, laughing occasionally with classmates, and his writing grew more powerful. He began to turn his pain into poetry, his loneliness into stories that carried truth and resilience. One afternoon, he handed me a new piece of writing. At the bottom, he had written, "Thank you for seeing me."